Have you ever stared down a road and wondered what it would be like to be flat out in 5th gear? Or see the intersection outside your favorite bar and imagine hitting that perfect apex? And a road which sweeps through a narrow bend, a turn that would test even the best courage. There's something magical about a natural terrain road course. Traveled every day by some, but closed down and dressed for racing. It used to be the main way racing was conducted. Special purpose-built circuits were a rare commodity. It was the roads where racing took place, real, visceral racing. There's nothing quite like it. Although there undoubtedly are fantastic dedicated circuits, the feeling of true road racing has failed to be replicated. This is one that may have slipped off the radar for some, released back in 2013 for rFactor 2 as part of a second wave of content for the then brand new sim, a classic road racing circuit, familiar to some but foreign to those outside the mystique of 60s Grand Prix racing. Sat around the small rural town of the same name, it was called Longford. The Longford circuit was a relatively simple course, 4.5 miles of roads just outside the town itself. It featured the signature long straightaways and heavy hairpin-like 90-degree corners indicative of circuits from this time period, but also several interesting bends and elevation which made it unique. Its first, an unmistakable pass underneath a railway viaduct which acts like a narrow chicane, always asking for a bit more cornering speed as cars thread their way between the formidable stone walls. Its second, a narrow sweeping passage across Long Bridge, spanning a river just wide enough for a single Formula car, and a flick to the left on entry which takes your breath away, lap after lap. It's a true racing circuit with several passing opportunities and slipstreaming down the long straightaways. It wasn't uncommon for competitions to feature race-long swaps for the lead. Racing first began around the track in 1953, where it held a mix of Formula and touring car races. The circuit peaked in popularity with the 1964 through 68 arrival of the Tasman Series, Australia's own off-season take on the Formula One World Championship. International drivers and teams descended upon Australia and New Zealand for a short run of races. Often testing the newest designs and innovations, the Tasman Series was every bit as exciting as the European Championship itself. Longford eventually succumbed to financial issues, ending races permanently after the 1968 Tasman season. But for those that were there to witness the greats like Jack Brabham, Denny Hulme, Bruce McLaren, Jackie Stewart, Graham Hill, it was home to some of the most exhilarating battles of the time period, full stop. Although history remembers Spa's 8.7-mile loop or the streets of Monaco, it's circuits like Longford that truly gave the 1950s and 60s their racing glamour. So as a part of rFactor 2's original vintage Grand Prix content, they developed this stunning version of the circuit, released alongside a great rendition of the Brabham BT20 1966 Grand Prix car. The two are a match made in heaven. Available for free in the Steam Workshop for any install of rFactor 2, they are a wonderful and sometimes surprise addition to any racing vintage lovers collection. So now, a race, 8 laps at the Longford circuit in these stunning machines. A real look into what it might have been like to road race in the 1960s. Alright, so here we are at the back of the grid, at the carnival-like start-finish area at Longford. Wait for the lights, red, green, we're underway. Try to balance the wheel spin off the line, then rocket up the gears. The AI are actually pretty good at getting away from the line here. Get up to 4th gear. Caught to a little kink. Just lifted the throttles, everybody gonna sort themselves out. Get up the inside of a couple cars, come down to the viaduct section. Ultra narrow, sketchy, a couple cars sideways in front. 2nd gear. Nice and easy tiptoe here, too wide in front. I think I'm too wide as well, car sliding behind. All right, there we go. Get on the gas then, Kingsbridge in front. in a short run up to 4th gear. Look for the braking markers on the right, 300. Normally be 200 there, back out of it a little early. Come down to Longford corner on the inside. Little car in front, get a slip in front, just tap of the nose. Radiator won't like that, but get on the throttle away. Down the Tannery straight over the railway tracks there. 4th gear. I've got Denny home in the mirror. This will end in the Tannery corner, tight 90 degree to the right. Can't quite see where we're going, little kink. Get on the brakes a bit early here. 4th gear, 3rd gear, 2nd. We'll slip up the inside quite a few, down to 1st. Control the wheel spin away now towards the long bridge. I think I cleared the one to the left there. Yeah, 4th gear. Nice and easy on the way in. Cold tires, almost run a bit wide. Down to 3rd into Newry corner. This one you need to get a good exit from. Tight though to the right, miss the apex. Back up to 2nd though. Want to get the good run. This will bring us on to the flying mile. 4th gear. It's exactly what it sounds like, flat out, I think for a mile, although I haven't measured it. 5th gear in the slipstream, top speed, well in excess of 170, maybe almost 180 miles an hour. We'll look for the braking markers on the right, little yellow boards, want to brake about 300, 275, here we go. Hard on the brakes, ooh, everybody's going to fan out in front, I get a little light on the rear, luckily skirt to the inside, 1st gear. Nice and easy through the final hairpin and back to the start finish. Whoa, exciting opening lap. Passed a couple cars, which is always good. Cross the start finish line. Slight contact with the front, but nothing too bad. And now settle in. So this will be a wild ride. Just a dip of the brakes there through the kink. Not always required, but a lot of cars around. So be careful. Got one right in the mirrors there, almost hitting me. 2nd gear through the viaduct now. Still a lot of oversteer. Once this car gets up to temperature, the tires get running a bit. It's so controllable. It's really fun to drive. Come down to Longford corner. Best pub in the world on the inside here. That's where I'd want to have a beer. Right on the accelerator then. It's a little dust behind me there. Over the railway tracks again. Objects whizzing past, trees, telephone poles, marshals, houses, bushes, all of the things you don't want to hit in a Grand Prix car filled with fuel. Hard braking here, down to 3rd, down to 2nd. Should be a good place to pass. Made it work last time through. Not quite as adventurous on the brakes that time. But if you try to outbrake them, it's where the acceleration will kill you on the other side. Or really close to the edge of the bridge. 2nd gear to Newry. Cars snaking everywhere as we get the power down. This is the V8 Brabham Repco. I'm racing my 1966 season right now in Grand Prix Legends, and this would be the car, or one of the versions of the car, that Jack Brabham's racing in that season, and it's just so superior, especially at the beginning of 1966 to all of the other cars, maybe bar that Ferrari V12 that Surtees has. Look for the braking marker though, right at about 300 on a good lap. Right down to 1st gear. Everybody's almost going to park it on the apex and carry a little bit more speed through here. We're not following a bunch of cars. We'll come across the line. It's like I'm about 10th of 14, a short field, but the Tasman Series often had shorter fields. Grand Prix races were not many over 20 cars back in the 60s. Certainly enough of a grid to have a good amount of fun. 2nd gear, throw it in, a little tentative on the controls, just trying to get the car hooked up and not run wide. Everything that you see on the track is collidable, will kill you if you run into it. That's the edge of the town of Longford. that the circuit takes the name off of. You just skirt through the edge of the town. Not a big town at all. I think population 3,500 or so these days. It would be an amazing town to live in as a race fan. Down to second gear. Late shift into first. Maybe don't even need it. The car, first gear is so short on the gearing. Over the bridge, there's some amazing photographs of the cars coming over that bridge in the real Tasman races here, and they were full-blown Formula One cars. You'll see the same models that usually rounded out the season before racing, and it's actually on these tracks. I'm not sure if it was Longford specifically, but in 1968 where Lotus first debuted their gold leaf livery, the first place to have a sponsored Formula One car. Here we go, nice slipstream down the Flying Mile. Look towards the inside as we'll come down to the hairpin. Ooh, the car in front's gonna peak that way too. Gotta back out of it a bit. Just don't wanna make contact at 180 miles an hour. Very early on the brakes, just coasting a bit. Get it down to first. Everybody locks him up. The line. I'm running the AI on 100% difficulty. They're quite fast. Always like a good fight. I just want to run away with the win. They're pretty well behaved, especially around a circuit like this, which has, well, really every obstacle in the world that you could run into. Little ditches, holes, bumps. They do crash here and there once in a while, but in a believable way, exciting way. It's always a good amount of fun to race them. Thought about diving up the inside there. We'll try to set them up for the next corner. It's all about controlling that wheel spin coming off the corner, counter steering quite a bit. You really feel like an ace when you get it right. Up to fifth gear in the slipstream, but not pulling in too much. It's going to peak to the outside. They're going to be too wide in front. There's nowhere for me to make a move then. Back out a bit. Little car on the outside, red car, runs a little bit wide. I'll try to go a little deeper than him. Side by side, maybe. Nope. Dips behind as we'll head into Long Bridge again. Spectators up on the hill will be an amazing place to see the cars come through. Up the gears. Very close to those tires on the inside. Don't want to make contact with those. Up a spot there, up to 9th. The slipstream then of this blue car. Should have a nice run on him. Oh, he's gonna fade to the inside. I don't really want to block on a track like this with cars like these. Hard braking. Oh, he's gonna outdo me too. The AI do fight back in rFactor 2. I'll pump the brakes there, almost making a T-bone accident onto the dirt a little bit, but you can see it's run into there. Quite common for cars to go wide, so almost made the move. Looks like Guy Ligier's car in front, although I don't know if he ever drove a BT20. Up to fifth gear, the car peaking on the inside. Just lose him in the mirrors. Fourth gear. Just want to keep the car nice and steady. If you really jab the brake pedals, I have to get onto it a bit more there to get the car slowed down. The suspension's so soft on these cars that it'll bounce around quite a bit and send you out of control just from your own braking. You don't get that sensation quite as easily in a more modern car, and by more modern I mean even 5 years after this. Cut it right to the inside there. This was right before, just 2 years before wings started appearing on Grand Prix cars. They're kind of in their purest form. 1966, we've been talking about it in my main series, Return to Power. The 3-liter engines were back, and for that short split second of 66 and 67, there were no wings, and high-powered engines would come to the inside. Oh, and he sticks it out there. test and patience with that right foot. All right, slipstream again. Like crowd me to the left, to the right. Oh, right against the edge of the track. You don't really want to touch the dirt either. Easy to send the car flying. Come down 300, go a little deeper if I can. Down to first gear. Car gets squirrely, but able to get around him. Nice slide on the exit, just to put the finishing touch on him. All right, fourth gear, come across the line, so up to eighth. Should be a couple laps to go, really. 3 laps. Through the flick there, we'll come down a viaduct. It's a test of how long you're going to keep it in fifth gear flat out down the hill. Under the train tracks. Most of this circuit these days is gone. The roads don't exist anymore. I think there was a highway put through this area. There are a couple roads and signs of the circuit still there, so if you're in the area, something definitely to check out and visit. Hopefully that pub is still there, so run a bit wide in front of it. Up to third gear, over the train tracks, up to fourth. Right in the slipstream once again. Keep to the inside, maybe block me to the outside. I don't know which way he's going to go. You just don't want to make contact in the braking zone on a circuit like this. Tempting to try to go side by side, but through here I just don't think that would be a very wise decision. First gear. Second on the throttle. This is obviously a generic car set. The Brabham car company, though, is the car in front. Taps on its brakes, should get it saved. So getting outbraked by the car in front, or shifting, or something happened there. Some of the cars and the drivers have a delay in their shifting, which is probably what that was. We'll have to fight back for the last position on the grid. Get it down to first gear. A little bit of oversteer, come across the line. But lucky not to hit anything, going pretty fast as we were getting onto the flying mile. Up to fifth gear. We'll try to put a little more into it here, down towards viaduct. I think I can close back up on these cars in front. Fourth gear. Just get it down into fourth and give it a little more gas there. And a bit wide. You can cut it close, but there is a little bit of a culvert on the inside that has a sharp concrete patch. Hard there, right after the kink. Down to first gear. Just see the cars in front coming back to me now. Should have, I believe, one more lap after this to try to get by them. Newery, try not to over rev on the downshifts, just trying to keep it tidy. Up to gears on the flying mile. The set of cars here with the Brabham BT20, they are fictional in that not all the drivers are real. You have Denny Hulme, Jack Brabham included as liveries, but the Brabham car company itself did sell cars, and so there were a lot of Brabhams floating around. So for a generic formula car, although the car is real, but kind of a generic series is probably the best one that could be picked. Alright, we'll come around to start the final lap here. A little bit closer than it was the last time through, but it's a pleasure driving this track, and it's one I've known about for quite a long time and have definitely done laps here in the past, but settling in, really learning it with a nice car like this, it's been quite a lot of fun. Exhilarating part of the course adds so much to this being just a traditional triangular road circuit. As it appears on the map, it doesn't look quite as interesting as it actually is to drive. Past the houses, try to spot the braking marker there. Fourth gear, third gear, second, first. Dive it in, just hit the inside, but suspension handles it well up to third gear. Flat out over the bridge, at least for the start of it, down to second, down to first. We're going to run a bit wide into Newry, pushing to try to catch the cars in front, just saving it though. Alright, so I think that's going to put a stop to my great comeback. But fun racing around this track. I wanted to do it, especially because I wasn't able to in the Tasman Series season I did in Grand Prix Legends. This is one of the few tracks from the 60s that doesn't exist for Grand Prix Legends. There's some beta versions and things floating around, but certainly nothing finished enough to even do an AI race on. So it'd be great to see this track come to that sim someday, but just to complete things there, but it's a wonderful version we have in rFactor, and a ton of fun to drive in these formula cars, but also sports cars as well, touring cars, anything really. It's a really, really nice track. So not the way I'd normally want a fun race to end, but I thought the first few laps were enjoyable enough that it deserved to be played out as it was. I did a video a couple months back looking at some of the other vintage tracks that initially launched with rFactor, and you can see, or at least I can, that this is a step above those just in quality with the car and the track and the environment and everything. Although the Spa and Monaco and Monza that shipped with rFactor 2 originally are very nice, this is just such another level. It's surprising to me that a full 60s F1 season with the real cars and drivers and everything doesn't actually exist for rFactor 2. There's some pretty nice fictionalized mods that have, apparently the same physics as the real cars, but don't quite look like the real ones and are a little more genericized overall. rFactor 2 as always remains the best sim driving wise, and the feeling of driving. Racing these cars, you just get a different feeling than I do in any other sim. They feel right, you can control slides, and when you watch the cars in replay, they look like they did in real footage back then. It just helps add to that feeling of how racing really was in these open wheel, no downforce beasts. So if you own rFactor 2 and haven't tried this out, there's really no reason to wait. You can go to the workshop and download it right away, or maybe it's already installed for you. rFactor 2 recently received that new UI update, and it's what brought me back into the sim and maybe try out this configuration again. I've had it on my list for quite a while to do a video on, and I'm glad I did. I've spent a lot of time lapping the circuit over the last week, and I can see myself doing it for quite a bit more in the future. So hope you enjoyed this look at Longford, a truly great road circuit from one of the most exciting times in racing history. Now, if you don't mind me, I've got to go shake my fist at the driver of that blue car in the garage. So thanks for watching. This is GP Laps, and I'll see you all again next time.